Well, good evening, everybody. What is up? It is December 16th, 2025. DSD Sports Chat is back. We are actually doing something a little bit different. We're not doing our traditional live stream on Facebook Live tonight, as we're kind of keeping this a little bit more casual, just doing kind of like the pre-recorded audio. I got myself, I got Dan, and I got Steve back in the studio. How's it going, fellas?
What's going on?
Good. Good to be back.
It's good to be back. Good to be back for the holidays. That way we can send our, season's greetings and have a little recap show because, like Danny just said, it's been 2.5 months. I'm like, wow. I had the baby. Just time is ultimately flying by so fast for me. And when you say it's flying by, I'm in hyperspeed over here. So everything's been great though.
Yeah, Danny and I, the childless ones over here. I mean, we can't compete.
We got your pets though.
yeah, we got our pets, but we can't compete with like the amount of time that you're probably putting in with the family, Steve. But I'll tell you this 2025. I mean, we didn't really have much of a fall. I feel like fall just kind of came and gone in just a matter of a couple weeks, and then we went right into winter. And that's why I wanted to kind of bring this show back for at least a little bit of an early winter update show. We have obviously the Tiger season's coming past, but we're currently red hot with the Red Wings and the Pistons. The Lions, obviously, we'll talk a lot about them. They're going to be a huge talking point for tonight's show, considering that we are almost near the end of the season. Danny, how's things been going with you, my friend?
Can't complain. Doing good. Living the dream over here in Green Westland, as they say. But sports are a fun time right now in Detroit. Who would have thunk it? We'd be going on like 2 months without a show with a lot of hype going on in Detroit. I felt like we were talking in our group messaging that we got going on. Basically, we need to do a show. There's so much that we've not discussed. So many things going around with the Tigers, Wings, Pistons, Lions. It's busy time.
Yeah, I think a lot of this was really just wanting to put some of our emotions, take it from the text chain and put it, live on the air. And I think that who would have thought too, just a few short, months ago, that the Red Wings and the Tigers and the Pistons would be maybe the only three Detroit sports teams to make the playoffs. But yet here we are. I mean, I did not have that on my Detroit sports bingo card this year.
Yeah, it's tough, man. The NFC North is kind of manifesting into something, with Ben Johnson going to the Bears. It's really turned obviously the tables over there, and he's won them over. I mean, and so you got that going on, and of course you got the Packers who were a big thorn in our side this year, and just the mounting injuries and the fake Ragnow coming back, and then he's not coming back, and it has not been a fun season. I will say that.
I think there's just been a lot of adversity that we've ever seen before over the last 2 years.
Including the refs, guys. I mean,
yeah. A lot of that, you can say that it is the Lions against the opponents and the pinstripes this year. But all that aside, if you're throwing out some of the conspiracy theories about the refs being in it for Detroit sports, we see that year in and year out. But if that was the case, there's also a lot of games that you probably wouldn't have won this year. Now, the Lions, for instance, are going to look back at games against the Vikings, obviously that game against Philadelphia, the near loss against the Giants. There's a lot of coulda, woulda, shoulda moments either way. This team could easily be 10-4, or this team could even be as low as probably 6-8, 6-7, something like that.
Well, they still could win the division.
And they still can win the division, considering now that, Micah Parsons just went down with an ACL tear for the Packers. But on the flip side, and Watson as well. But on the flip side of that, if you're the Lions, you were wanting to root for the Bears to beat the Packers. And now it's like, well, now you got the Packers. Now you got to root for them to beat the Bears. And now, that tie that the Packers had against the Packers tie that they had against the Cowboys back in week 3.
I know, that throws a wrench.
It's going to throw a huge wrench, and that might pay off for the Lions. It might not. But as it sits right now, you do have that one game advantage over the Bears up until the finale in Week 18, which it very well could come to. It could come down to that, right, Danny?
Yeah. You guys were talking about the Lions' struggles, either the refs or just guy coming out of retirement or whatnot. I honestly got to say, I think it's just the whole, you lost all of your coordinators. You lost a lot of insights from a lot of knowledge that left town and went elsewhere to take coaching positions. And I think you put a lot more on Campbell's head. And I think he's not handling it as well as I think a lot of people hoped. Jared Goff is kind of regressing. I mean, there's signs. There's a lot of things. And I know we like to try to point the finger at, the refs or whatnot when the Lions lose. But I mean, it is kind of one of those situations where you kind of got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, are we doing enough to win at the end of the fourth quarter? And the Lions don't do that every game. It's just,
No, you're
unfortunately, it's
not
the
seeing
fact.
any of the surprise plays.
Adjustments, and they're not making
No
adjustments.
adjustments. Yeah,
No,
I mean,
and I will say this: when you're looking at stats and you look at when Dan Campbell took over, the play calling capabilities, a few short weeks ago, the offense has been probably top 3, top 5 in the league, and it's certain categories, but they don't turn over the ball as much. I will say that. And I don't think that Jared Goff, who was on pace a few weeks ago to have the most sacks that he's ever had in the Lions uniform, he's kind of now stayed stagnant of that. He was only sacked once in the most recent game, obviously. But the defense is a concern only because there are jarring injuries. You've lost Kirby Joseph pretty much for the season. You've lost Brian Branch for the season. Tyrion Arnold is out. The secondary is so depleted, and I hate to use those excuses, but those are top elite defensive players. I mean, these are guys that made your team what it was last year and the year before, and not having them, including Frank Ragnow, obviously at center, that was a huge loss. And I still don't think that Graham Glasgow has really adjusted fully to that role. And you've had some injuries up front on the O-line as well. And also, when you don't get Jahmyr Gibbs into the end zone, they've lost all 6 games. Every game that we have lost this year, Jahmyr Gibbs has also not scored a touchdown, including this past week. So that is also pivotal.
Yeah.
And David Montgomery can only do so much. He's your bulldozer. He's your red zone guy. He's your guy that you throw in there when you're on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yard line. And that was great. He did punch in for a score. But Jahmyr Gibbs not being able to explode on that line and not creating those holes for him, you're just running up the gut. Do an end-around sweep. Do something. And that was one thing that frustrates me about Dan Campbell is just his lack of adjustment and his lack of just, trying to kind of switch things up. Yeah, that Ben Johnson was so, he worked his magic so well when he was here for those 3 or 4 years. And now you're seeing him shine bright in Chicago. And that is a much different Chicago Bears team than who you faced in week 3. I don't want to hear any fan say right now that, their biggest claim to fame win was against the Bears. You put up 50 on them. That was not the same Detroit Lions team, and that was not the same Chicago Bears team. And I think if you can get past Philadelphia, or if you can get past Pittsburgh, you get past Minnesota, those are going to be some seriously tough games. Yeah. You're going to have, thankfully you got Pittsburgh at home, but you're going to be on the road your final 2 games in Minnesota.
Christmas.
And yeah, it's a Christmas matchup. There is going to be a lot of hype surrounding that, but it's going to be tough. Do I think they can go 3-0? Yes, but when was the last time that they won back-to-back games? It's been nearly 3 months.
They're not in confidence.
They're not in tune. They're not in sync. It's been win-loss for the past 2.5 months. And that's going to be really, really hard to convince Vegas, convince your fan base, convince a lot of people that right now don't believe in this team. And yet you're still sitting 8-6 with a chance to win the division and make the playoffs as a wild card team. Frankly, I hope you sneak in as a wild card because I don't think the bye week will do you any favors, Steve.
No. and that's the thing. Yeah, you sit a week that didn't. Look what happened last time when we had that. It Washington. Was, no. Mm-hmm. Yes, like you hit the nail on the head with the lack of creativity, the lack of, they just become predictable, in my opinion. They're so predictable, and Hutch has been, Hutch is being double teamed, so that opens the door for Muhammad and guys like that to step up and have big gains. But yeah, the defense lacks a big corner or a big safety that is going to ball hawk and get you a turnover in the air, because it's hard to do it with the fumble. Those are more rare, and we can only ask for so much. So it's definitely going to be an interesting few weeks. I think I can't believe how much they're favored against the Steelers. I think I saw 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm that's a pretty good, the Steelers are burning, charring red hot right now.
They're sneaky, and they're in a weak division.
Aaron Rodgers is clicking with Metcalf. Yep. They have decent run. They're decent. They're very well coached. JJ Watt is I think
might come back. Might be back.
Okay. He might be back, but I heard that he had a freak injury. He ended up in the hospital, but man, there's so many storylines going on with the NFC North, and just the NFL. It's really you feel like it's scripted sometimes because of Mahomes going down. There's all these big stories going on, and you're just like, wow, okay, I guess we're just going to enjoy the ride, and we're going to see what happens, because right now they don't instill confidence, but like when the Lions get their backs bumped up into the wall, they seem to fight back. So we can't count them out yet.
As much as I really worry too, about this team's offense, real quick, Danny, as much as I really worry about this offense, I mean, yes, they've still since that win against the Commanders back on November 9th, they put up 44 points in that game. The defense came to play. Obviously, they only managed to put up 9 points against the Eagles, but they only held the Eagles to 16 points. But since that game against the Eagles, that your defense played probably its best game of the season, you gave up 27 to the Giants, 31 to the Packers, 30 to the Cowboys, and 41 to the Rams. I mean, that is, to me, that's very, very concerning, because this is also an offense that, if you normally go out there and put up 30 or 35 points, you have a damn good shot at winning. But with this defense and with the depleting injuries and the lack of adjustment and just this whole next man up and this Legion of Whom crap, that ended against the Commanders, as far as I'm concerned. That was the game that Dan Campbell took over head coaching, was back in week 10, or play calling, I should say. And that was a game where everybody, the whole team, I feel like, kind of came around each other. They all adjusted properly. Everybody was getting in the mix, everybody on offense. You can't have a game where you're only passing the ball to Jamison Williams and to St. Brown. I mean, that they literally received 92% of the targets in this last game against the Rams. And the Rams are an elite offense. They have a very good defense, which you were able to score 34 points on, but really you only controlled probably 2.5 quarters. And that's another concern. This is a team over the last 2 years that always had control of games. They never looked back. When this team would go up by 10 or 14 or more points, you knew that game was locked down. You were not losing that game. This year, you can't get a 14-point lead and be confident that is going to stay intact because of how this defense plays and how other teams are able to adjust when you don't.
Yeah, it's really hard to be confident with the Lions right now. I feel like if you don't win out, you pretty much have no shot. I really truly believe that if you don't, you're pretty much packing your bags and
it's over. Yeah.
Right. It goes from 94% chance if you win out to like virtually zero if you don't. So
you're gonna have to have a lot of luck. And you guys touched on injuries a lot. I've seen a lot of teams are banged up right now. Even the Packers, they have a lot of their elite talent, and they're still finding ways to win. I can't really say the next man up, but you also have to realize it is professional football, and it is a very brutal sport, and guys are going to get banged up, and you're going to lose top talent. And it is kind of like the next man up, kind of like, in my perspective anyway. You're not playing with your top tier players, but you got to have someone that steps up and makes some noise or makes some quality plays. I mean, not everybody's going to be, Gibbs and Goff and whatnot and be superstars, but you have to have guys that can contribute offensively or defensively and make sure that you win games, because if you're not, then you're not going to make the playoffs. Like Green Bay is not making excuses, and look at who Green Bay has out. Kraft is out, Parsons is out. They have a lot of their top tier talents out. So obviously, you're trying to catch Green Bay, and obviously Chicago is not backing down, and the next 3 games are crucial. I feel like it's definitely step one is this weekend, and if you don't win, I think that's pretty much the nail in the coffin.
Oh, the season's over. You're playing. I mean, you can't get worse than the Dallas Cowboys. They are at a 1% chance of making the playoffs. They need to win out, and they need to hope that Philadelphia loses the rest of their games, and that's the way they get in. But the Lions, their chances are over. They lose this weekend, they're done. They're not going to make it in as a 10-7 team. Just not how competitive the NFC is this year. But I think you do control your destiny if you win these next 2 games. I really do believe the Bears are going to lose one of their next 2 games before they face us in Week 18. But, would you rather have your heart broken now, or would you rather wait until the new year? I mean, I don't know. I really think that it's exciting. This team keeps you invested.
Yeah,
they're the cardiac kitties. But at the same time, as long as they're still in it, when anybody can get in, look at Washington. Everybody, they were riding under the radar last year, and they, made it to the Super Bowl. So I think that, or damn near did, they made it to the NFC Championship game. So they're a team that was very sneaky, but they were already an underdog. The Lions came into this season as a Super Bowl or bust team, and everybody had them riding high. And you start off 4-1, had a very, very good start. Tough loss against Green Bay in week 1, but that was week 1. And then just ever since that game against the Commanders, this team has just not clicked. And I think that the injuries are of concern. That has to be severely looked at. That's 2 years in a row where these injuries that have happened to very, very prominent elite players on this team. And I could say that, against anybody else, but it's just, it's almost happening way too often in this league, not just for Detroit, but across the league. Something has to be done about that. But that's a whole nother can of worms. I just think with this year, I think you got to look at Brad Holmes. You got to look at Dan Campbell. The whole we good mentality at the beginning of the season, not addressing the holes that you had at center with Frank Ragnow. Frank gave you 3 months to search for a center. I'm not saying you needed to draft a center, but you definitely could have went out there, signed a reputable free agent, made a trade in the offseason. It didn't happen. You knew that you needed pass rushing. Pass rushing has always been a concern. You were having a rebuilt Aiden Hutchinson coming back from a substantial injury that wasn't going to be 100%, probably the first few games of the season. He started to adapt well. He's finally finding his groove, but he needs more help on that end. I mean, I don't care, who you throw in there. Second, third strings on this team, they're just not going to do it. You would think that these guys that are coming into these games in crucial moments as the next man up, they would have a little bit more motivation to make a statement, prove a point. And I'm sure Dan Campbell's giving these guys a lot of pressure. He's putting a lot of pressure on these guys. But the talent, though, you still have to have overall talent. There's a reason why these guys are second, third, fourth string. Their talent level is not up there with, the Kirby Josephs and the Brian Branches and they just have a whole different talent level. And you can't ask somebody that is like a C tier to be an A+ tier or even be a B tier. And I think it's too much to overcome at this point. I think the Lions are probably going to end up finishing the season at 10-7. I think they're going to lose to the Bears. I hate to say it. I think it's going to be a heartbreaking loss. The Bears, they remind me of the Lions of last year. And this is the 1 year under Ben Johnson.
Wouldn't that be how the script would end it?
Yes, it would.
With the Bears overcoming the Lions and Ben Johnson coming to the rise.
It sounds like a scripted
doesn't it?
WWE ending.
But that's how the NFL is, right? It is a very scripted.
I agree with you, Derek. Sadly, I have to agree.
Oh, I feel like the writing is on the wall right now. You just jinxed it right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like you guys. I mean, we're going to talk about this till we're blue in the face. It's just the confidence isn't there. The consistency, the creativity. It's just a lack of all those things, and it all falls back to coaching. And maybe a little bit on Holmes not getting maybe help for Hutch. You should have made probably call down in Cincinnati and got Hendrickson up here. Because it's like
could have happened.
Yeah, that would have been a game changer. And Henderson, they're out of it. And Burrow wants out. That whole team's falling apart.
Yeah, you got to blow up that Cincinnati team.
We couldn't do anything. So it's a lot of. It falls on leadership. I don't think this is not. I'm not saying it's on the players at all. It's a lack of failure on leadership, and Campbell, and Holmes need to get together and figure it out, because either way, like you said, we're kind of set up for heartbreak. We're set up for misery, and I don't see it any other way. We can't expect Yassine and all these, low tier players to expect B+ out of them. They're going to have some bad games. They can't outperform. Everyone's human, and only elite athletes are good every Sunday.
Exactly.
So, man, it's going to be interesting. But like I said, just enjoy the ride. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it does suck. It's bittersweet because it feels like kind of the little run we had is ending. And I know, it looks like it's over, but it's not. Yeah. I know it's not. But
you're in it until you're not, and it sucks because I really did say that the Lions, ironically enough, were going to finish the season at 11-6. That was my preseason prediction, but it was how they got there. It was the teams that they were to beat and how they won those games. Not win loss for the past 3 months. It was really you win maybe 4 in a row, you lose 1, you win 2 or 3 in a row, and then you lose 1 here. Like it was really sporadic. That was kind of how I had it. And I had him winning both games against the Vikings. I had him splitting against the Packers. So right there, I've already lost. That's 2 losses right there that I've already lost. So I really thought that they were going to beat Kansas City this year. And look at what Kansas City does. You make too many deals with the devil and you get bit. Karma finally came for the Kansas City Chiefs this year.
Yep.
And that dynasty, I think, is slowly coming to an end. I'm not going to say that the window is closing yet for the Lions. I really think that you have time still, because you've signed a lot of these star players. You've locked up at least 4 or 5 of your elite players to keep the band together for another 3 to 4 years. They're still very young. They're all in their early to mid 20s. So I mean, I still believe that you have a good run left in you barring any injuries in the coming years, but you also have to establish that depth. You got to have one or two front end starters. Yeah, build around Hutch. You have to build around your star talent, and that's something that Brad Holmes only believes in doing through the draft. You have to do more than just the draft. And I can argue that this last year's draft was not that good. It wasn't the draft of 2023. It wasn't the draft of 22. It was a very subpar, mediocre draft. You know,
I don't think we're showed up in that draft. I mean,
where's Ennis Rakestraw? We're never going to see him play an NFL snap. It's been over 2 years, so there are hit or misses. And that was and I still question, the third round pick. I still wonder about Isaac Tesla, and we could have got him a lot later.
Yeah,
he was a weird pick.
I think he's super talented, but it's like
we don't give him the opportunities.
Why are we being creative with him? It's like, and when we are, it's like it's a touchdown.
He does. He has 4 touchdowns and 6 catches. That is such an insane stat. 4 TDs and 6 catches, and he's only got 180 yards, 200 yards of total receiving.
Yeah, it's short. So it's like they're not using him in the field besides the red zone. You're just using him in red zone plays, and it's like, it's just frustrating the lack of. I love that they're involving JMO more, but it's like we need to spread it out more. And now that we're virtually hurt at tight end, there's none of that being used at all.
We're using our third string tight end. We don't even have Brock Wright. We obviously don't have Laporta, so that hurts because Laporta was a great blocker. He was a great decoy, and Brock Wright was good. I think they need to start integrating Tom Kennedy more into the play. He's a great punt returner and a great kick returner, but I think you could use him as a blocker. He's proven himself to be, right next to Tesla as maybe a third or fourth slot in there with wide receiver. So you got to change it up. If I'm Campbell, I am looking at trying to adjust this. I'm trying to adjust everything you can as far as the blocking and maybe sending more guys out deep and doing more out routes and slants because Jared Goff throws way too many short passes. You could be at a 3rd and 15. What does he either do? Run it up the gut, or he just does a short little 3 or 4 yard pass to try to pick up the first downs. It's not working. Their third down efficiency has been among some of the worst in the league this year, and especially in the second half, and fourth downs. Dan Gamble is not the Dan Gamble of the last 2 years. This has been a pitiful fourth down team this year. They're among the worst in fourth down conversions.
Look who's calling the plays.
Yep. It's just you're becoming way, way too predictable, and that's I think been your Achilles heel all year long. At least since week 10, I would say. From week 10 on, this team has just not been able to find their identity, their spark. There's no magic, and I think they can definitely rustle off 2 in a row against the Steelers and the Vikings. But I think you're going to lose that heartbreaker in Chicago, and I think that's where your season comes to an end.
Interesting.
They will.
Yeah,
but hey,
thoughts?
Yeah, Danny.
Oh, go ahead, Jared.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I really think the league may be just catching on to Campbell as well. I mean, his antics are very well documented. Everybody knows that he's a little bit off his rocker a little bit, and his style is kind of very unorthodox, and not really people are doing that. So I think the playbook is out. I think everybody realizes what he's going to do, and until you make some adjustments, make some different play calling, I think he's taking over a lot of different realms, and maybe he's not fully comfortable. And obviously you're seeing some mishaps happening, and just there's a lot of things that you can point the finger at, but overall everybody's got to play a little bit more efficiently and better clock management overall. Yes. I think the Lions probably are going to miss the playoffs this year, and I think that's probably what you need to really dive in to reset, retool, come back with more depth, more offensive punch, maybe some more help for Goff, maybe more weapons, depending on who's injured. What's the status of Laporta going back for next year? There's some question marks for the Lions moving forward, and I think if you can address these with some either free agent pickups or trades, it seems like the draft seems to be the retooling mechanism that we like to do here in this town. But I feel like you need to make some significant moves to kind of shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think that really, if you're Brad Holmes, you're going to take a big, long look in the mirror in this offseason. You miss the playoffs, because to know that where your ceiling was, obviously that Super Bowl or bust mentality, to go to completely miss the playoffs and blow off your season. Yeah, you're going to come back hungry, and I think you're definitely going to second guess a lot of the things that you thought this year were smart decisions that you thought that you you had everything figured out. You thought that this team was good, the whole "we good" mentality, but it wasn't. It wasn't good, even with injuries, without injuries. I just think that you didn't shore up this team enough offensively, and I don't think you shored them up enough defensively as well.
Exactly.
And I think that, you were exposed. And I think, like you said, Danny, to your point, I think a lot of teams, a lot of coaches, they figured out Dan Campbell. I think a lot of his play callings became very, very predictable, like we said. And even from the last couple of years, what he does on fourth downs and how he was able to convert. You got to remember, too, the last 3 years, a lot of that was Ben Johnson's offense. A lot of that was his play calling. And I think that you're starting to see that. Look at what he's been able to do with Caleb Williams over in Chicago. I think it speaks volumes to how much of an impact he had. Now, I don't think we're missing Aaron Glenn as much as we did the last couple of years, because I think Calvin Shepard has been able to be a sustainable, proven defensive coordinator. He's done a lot of good for this defense, but I think offensively, as good as they are, as good as their stats have been, there's a lot of room for improvement on that offense, and I think Campbell will be the first one to tell you that.
Yeah,
100%. And you may have to put Morton on the hot seat a little bit, And
yep.
Also, the whole health coaching staff, the strength and conditioning coaches, all those people should be questioned, because
held accountable.
I feel like a lot of these injuries are wild, and why are players being rushed back and then they end up with these season-ending injuries? Probably because they maybe should have sat out a few weeks.
Yep.
And I'm just disappointed because I thought leadership would have had a little more control on that. But we need to hold those people accountable, and I think Holmes needs to make a call, and Sheila Hamp, I hope she sees what's going on. I think she does, and hopefully they visit that in the off season, because you might have to clean that up, because I don't know what kind of culture they're trying to create. It just doesn't seem like the right way to do it, and we just got to get right to ship here. And like you said, I don't think it's over, because you actually have some talented pieces.
You've signed a lot of guys long term. Yeah, you do. You have the talent. This team is still a very, very elite football team. Even though they've not won a Super Bowl, they've not been to a Super Bowl, they've come mighty close. They're knocking on that door this season. This season, really, you could look back and say, what could have been if we just made a tweak here and there, if we just made an addition here at a certain position, different game calling, different play calling. I just feel like that this team was maybe a few changes away from maybe an extra win or two. You should have beat the Eagles. You should have beat the Vikings. Those are two losses. They're going to really stick in my crawl for maybe what could have been for this year, because that would have put you already at 10 wins, and you would be probably looking at about an 89 to 90% chance of making the playoffs as it sits right now. If you were 10-4, you could be in the Bears' shoes. So that's frustrating, but you can't look back at that. You got to move forward, and I think this offseason there's going to be some humble pie eaten for sure all the way around, and I think you're going to see a change in how Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell execute and grow this team moving forward. But hey, I think enough talking about the Lions. We'll obviously see what happens. Real quick, final predictions. Lions making the playoffs, yes or no?
No.
No. All three no's across the board, so we can cross that one off the list.
I guess so, yeah. No. I want to say yes so bad, but I got to go
keep it real, man.
I'm going to keep it real.
I got to keep it honest.
Well, from some disappointment in the Lions, let's move on to some of the positives here. Let's go right into the Pistons. How about the best team in the East right now, the 21-5 Detroit Pistons? Who would have ever thought we'd be talking about that?
I know. I caught the run, during the playoffs. We all caught Pistons fever, and it's kind of honestly, just like the Tigers, the magic stayed on for the next season, and you're just kind of enjoying the ride. And I will admit I haven't watched much basketball yet. I usually wait till the playoffs, but if their strong core can stay healthy, because that's kind of what happened last year. They kind of weren't healthy in the playoffs. If they can stay healthy and maintain, they could definitely go on a run. It's exciting.
Well, what's really exciting about this team too, Danny, is that the bench is really what has been the shining star of this team. It's not been the starting five, because you got to remember they went on a 14-game streak earlier in the season. They won 14 games in a row, tying their franchise record, and they were without Jalen Duren. They were without Cade Cunningham, Azar Thompson, and they didn't even have Tobias Harris. They just got Jaden Ivey back literally a couple weeks ago. the offseason acquisitions of Karis LeVert, Javonte Green, Dennis Jenkins, Duncan Robinson, they've been paying dividends, even though they're not part of the starting rotation. I think having Jaden Ivey back has been huge, and Beef Stew off the bench. That guy could start or be a bench player because he adds so much depth. He reminds me a lot of Ben Wallace. He really does. Averaging about 6 or 7 rebounds a game, and then of course you can't say enough about Cade. Averaging about 27 points a game and also 10 assists per game. He's probably one of the best elite offensive players in all of the NBA right now. It's just been really magic to see. And I will say I've actually watched a lot of games this year now that I have FanDuel, and I've actually able to watch.
Oh, you do have FanDuel. Okay.
Oh yeah, now that I have FanDuel, I'm like, yeah, I can't miss any more games. If we're gonna be talking about the Pistons more often and all of Detroit sports, you got to at least have the channel so you can watch 3 of the 4 teams. So yeah. But yeah, what are your thoughts, Danny?
Yeah, you're right. For one, it's good to have FanDuel again. I know, it's expensive, but it is what it is. 21-5. I don't know very many people that probably thought the Pistons would go on that type of a run this early.
Yes.
It's been a very blessing in disguise. I don't think I called that at the beginning of the year. The Knicks are right behind the Pistons, obviously, as well in the East. But if you can continue the upward spiral that is where they're trending, and of course, there's always the regression state of when's water gonna basically meet its top.
I know
with the Pistons, but like you guys were talking, ride the wave while you can. But I feel like this is probably something that you can, is longevity wise, you can sustain this.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you're gonna hit some roadblocks in the way. Obviously, I think the Pistons have won 4 in a row.
Yes.
So I would say, if you can continue to keep the trend going until January, February, I think you have a really good shot. If you continue to play good basketball all throughout the season. Consistency for basketball, I think, is probably just as important as just about any other sport there is.
Right.
I'm looking forward to having all of our teams in Detroit good again. I will say it would be really, really nice to finally be able to say we do have the major 4 teams as successful, and now the Lions are kind of tailing off, which is crazy to think. But I will say this. I have not said this in many recent years. I'm intrigued to go down to LCA to go to a Pistons game.
Yep, 100%.
We should try to do
with
it.
You. Yep, I'd be all for that.
Yeah.
We did go to that one. I don't know if it was a Pistons game or I think it was just a Red Wings game that we went to a few years ago with us 4. But a Pistons game, I think right now would be even more fun just because of how electric they are. Yep. They're consistent, and in the NBA, when you look at the East and the West, there's really only 4 to 5 really, really competitive, solid teams. Right now, you're looking in the East, you're looking at the Pistons, you're looking at the Knicks, the Raptors are good, the Celtics, who now you've beaten 2 out of 3 games, and
you just beat them.
I would say the Cavaliers and the Hawks are probably right there as well. And you've also beaten the Hawks twice this year. In the West, I don't know how many teams are going to touch the Thunder. They're 24-2. They've literally won 21 out of their last 25 games. That team is just insane. They're actually going for the record. The Nuggets are also a good team, and then the Lakers are back to being good, along with the Spurs and the Rockets. So the Pistons, I think, can compete with just about anybody. I'm intrigued to see them face the Knicks in March, and also I believe they're going to be facing the Thunder sometime in February, and I think that's going to be a game. I can't wait to see that game. But I'll tell you what, just how explosive they are, and they're winning games by convincing fashion. They're not fluky wins. Mm-hmm. They're consistent. They've not lost more than 1 game over a period of time. They're very exciting. I don't think this team is fluky at all. I think this team is very, very consistent in what I've seen. You're about 30 games into the season right now, so little under halfway. I don't think they're a pretender at all. I think they're a legitimate contender, all the way from how they played last year against the Knicks. I really think that they could have beaten the Knicks in the first round of the playoffs to go on to the next round, and I think they have a bit of a chip on their shoulder, especially with now more depth. They added some pieces in the offseason. So, yeah, I'm very intrigued. I'm following Pistons basketball more than I have in probably the last 10 years, so I'm excited for it.
Yeah, like that dude on 97.1 said, Gores is really invested into the Pistons, and it's good to see ownership doing that. And he has really built a core, repaid for a core of players like Cunningham and Durant and Thompson. Those guys are turning into like the stars you thought they would be. And it's through the draft and through that leadership. It all comes down to, again, that word again. Your general manager is pivotal to success of an organization. That's why we'll talk about the Tigers later. But that's what the Tigers might be in danger because of their GM. But it's good to have someone like that that's confident and is able to understand talent and doors that invest in it. And it's going to be exciting to see what they do. I mean, every time I flip on to get an update, they're literally winning, and the turnaround has been insane.
And they rarely ever play from behind, too. That's what I was just talking about. Consistency is like, I mean, they had a little bit of a hiccup against the Celtics last night. They fell behind, I think, by 8 early in the first half, but they went on a tear in the third and fourth quarters, and they know how to close out games. They really don't play from behind a lot. I think I could probably count on one hand of how many games that they've literally been like behind more than 10 points in a game. They shut teams down. They have that killer instinct, and when they get up, and they end that game quickly. So, right now, I don't think it's a matter of if the Pistons make the playoffs, it's how far are they willing to go. And I guess that's going to be my final prediction as we close on the Pistons topic is how far will this team go in 2025-26? Steve?
I think, that's a good question because right now it seems like it's all depends on the players that show up in the playoffs because Cade, we kind of saw that the next series, we watched a little bit of it there together. And we noticed Cade wasn't being the Cade of the regular season. And we didn't know if he was hurt or the lack of talent around him was not.
Experience. Could be experience too.
So maybe stepping into this season now and going to the playoffs, they'll have little, like you said, that chip on his shoulder and be able to propel the team to win a series and maybe go to the conference championship. I mean, I don't know, man. I wouldn't be surprised by anything, but I'll be watching.
Yeah. I would say that too, Danny.
Yeah, so I think last year was really good for a lot of the young talent, especially Cade, to get your feet wet in the playoff atmosphere and get the grind of what it's really like to play in meaningful games. And I think that is going to help you this year, and you're going to take the next step. And I don't think you're going to go all the way, but I think you might potentially go second or third round. There's so many good powerhouse teams, and I know the Pistons are probably on the verge of being one of those, but I don't think you're quite there yet. I know a lot of people are discussing trades for the Pistons to get like that legit big talent.
Oh, I did see that.
Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis. Yeah, there's a lot of speculation. Detroit is in the news for pretty much so many trades right now for all of our sports. It's just insane. Every day you see something new about some Detroit.
We're sought after. We're a sought after market now. I mean, it feels like it was back, 10 or 15 years ago when we actually had successful teams aside from the Lions, funny enough, when the Pistons and the Tigers and the Red Wings were all being competitive and we were sought after. We were a hot market. We were not necessarily winning championships, but we were also making it to the playoffs, and we were a very consistent franchise. I mean, I think, unfortunately, I got the Pistons going to the Eastern Conference Finals, but I think they will be upended either by the Raptors or the Celtics. I think that the Celtics are a very, very deep and dangerous team. I think the Knicks, you're not going to see the Knicks, obviously, early in the playoffs like you were last year because it was a 2 versus 7 last year, but I think this is a team that if you're going to see the Knicks, they might either get bounced before you face them, or you might see them in the second or the third round. But I think you're either going to get beaten by the Celtics or the Raptors in the conference finals. I don't know if many teams are going to be able to face to be able to dethrone the Thunder. I think they're very, very deep. I think they're very, very tough. I think the West. You definitely have to go through the Thunder to get to the West, but Pistons are going to go far. I think that they have, like you said, chip on the shoulder. The experience is there. They've got way more depth than they did last year. I mean, I remember at the preseason of this season after last year, we were thinking the Pistons, maybe they'll hit 50 wins. They're on pace to win 67 games right now. So they're in a very, very good position where they are right now. They've got a stranglehold on that on their division. They got a very, very good lead in the conference. So I mean, I think sky's the limit for this team. Do I want them to see him make a run at Anthony Davis? I don't think so. I think that's a guy that has a lot of baggage. That's a lot of baggage. Yeah, Steve. It's a lot of baggage. He's very injury prone. I don't want them to really blow up the chemistry of this team. I think that everybody on this team is either young or they play an unsung role, and they gel. You got the perfect blend, and this is what we've talked about with like the Red Wings. and even the Tigers. You need a blend of youth and veteran leadership. And I think you're seeing that. Even though Cade is only 24 years old, he's been in the league now for 5 years, albeit 1 year that he was injured. But Cade's established himself, I think, as a top 5 player in this league. And I think he's going to be here for many, many years to come. And I think he ultimately is going to win a championship here. I think the Pistons are very close to a championship. And Cade's become that leader. And I think that the rest of the team, they kind of follow his leadership and just that whole driving mentality. So, I'm going to say Eastern Conference Final for the Pistons this year.
I like it. I don't think you need a big-time superstar with the Pistons. I feel like you have enough role players, and Cade is kind of that guy, that face of the team that you can rely upon to get big points in big moments.
I agree. And then switching gears over to another successful Detroit sports team right now, are Red Wings. So the Red Wings currently down 1-0 to the Islanders at LCA, but this is a team that has been kind of on a tear as of late, Danny. 18-12-3, currently 1 point up in the Atlantic Division, a very competitive Atlantic Division. You lose one game and you could fall from the lead of the division to outside the playoffs with how tight things are.
Yeah, it is really one of those situations where you do lose a game or two in a row, and that could potentially put you out of the playoffs. Hockey right now is just really, really challenging to really diagnose who's going to do what, and obviously with the big trades, and we'll go into that in a minute if you want. And I will say, I'm very cautiously optimistic right now. I'm really, really happy with John Gibson turning things around in the month of December and being the player of the week.
2
Seems
shutouts.
like he's played really well. I know he let up one tonight. That wasn't really his fault. I did watch the first period before we went to the studio here and started recording. But I'm like I said, I'm optimistic, but I'm also I'm not sold yet due to the lack of goal scoring besides the first line for the Wings. I feel like you have to get more production out of your bottom 6, and the Wings just don't seem like they have that ability. And today you lost Jonathan Berggren on waivers to St. Louis, which he was supposed to be your bottom 6 goal scoring. He just never quite panned out.
Never materialized.
As well as you hoped here. He just really never could crack the opening roster. I feel like he was just always that role player that you hope could emerge into some kind of talent, but he didn't gel. I don't know if it just was his style of play or he just wasn't quite fitting in the Red Wing way. But I'm really looking forward to seeing the Wings next year. I think as soon as the calendar flips to 2026 and you get into January, that's what you're going to see, and that's when you can really start to say, hey, we're going to make the playoffs, or hey, we're not.
I agree with that. And like you mentioned about Jonathan Berggren, it's a tough loss. I know that they just made a roster move the other day and brought back up JBD. And I think that that's going to add a little bit more depth on that blue line. I really like what Sandin Pellikka's been doing. I think he's been playing that role of that second line, D line with Johansson really, really well. I think Edvinsson has done well with Seider. Hamonic's been kind of okay. He's been a little bit, inconsistent at times, but man, that trade for Quinn Hughes would have been great. I mean, if you would have been able to pull that off. Did you hear his comments that he made in his presser? The dig that he made? I really think that was a dig at Yzerman.
So
what are your thoughts?
I know that you're hearing this on the flagship station from Mikey V. I know I got that too. I did catch the comments from Hughes, and I will say this. The asking price for Hughes was extremely high. I was following it very closely because as soon as I heard his name on the radar for the Wings even interested, I knew the Wings were probably going to have to give up Danielson,
Pellikka,
or Edvinsson. And from what I hear from the rumor mill is the Wings are not willing to move Edvinsson. And I think he was the deciding factor.
Edvinsson still has some time, I think, to develop, and I think he is going to develop into that guy, but you got to get him some more help, just like with Mo.
And here's the thing. If you put Seider with Hughes, if you think about this right now, and I am speaking honestly as possible, I really think that's probably your best pairing in hockey, Seider and Hughes. Obviously, we'll never know unless magically Hughes
2030.
In 2 years, maybe. When Hughes is in his mid-30s. It did sound like, going back on the comments, that basically hey, I wanted to go elsewhere, but I'm not going to say Detroit or New Jersey, because a part of me also thinks that this could be a dig at the Wings or this could be a dig at the Devils, because why would you not want to go play with your brothers in New Jersey?
But he made a comment, though, about like, well, at least Minnesota is close to Michigan because he does play a lot in the offseason. Is it with Dylan Larkin?
Yes, and I mean
Practices in the
his parents do really enjoy vacationing here,
Mm-hmm.
which I did hear from one of the NHL insiders, Elliot Friedman, and I was really waiting to wake up one of these mornings and see that the Wings dealt Pelika or Evanson for Hughes and a couple
big
first
splash.
rounders.
Yeah.
And I was like, nope, Yzerman is really conservative. He's got that long-term conservative approach, and that's fine. I get that, but it's also one of those mentalities that drives me nuts at the same token, is knowing that you might have been able to have Hughes with Seider for the long term. I really, for me, I know it's a toss up and I know it's a lot of what ifs if he would stay here after, not this season, but next season. I really think he probably would.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a lot of what, but why don't we ride what we have? I mean, like you said, the Wings have been fun, and it seems like they're on the right path. Looks like they're down 1-0 right now, but I like this Finney kid.
Oh, yes.
He's kind of coming to his own a little bit. He's stepping up to the plate. And Kane seems to still have a little juice in him. I was able to watch that Blackhawks game the other day. It just seemed like a team with more spark.
Yeah. Patrick Kane unfortunately got hurt in that game. He's going to be out the next two.
Mm-hmm.
Emmett Finney, Emmett Finney has been a very pleasant surprise. I will say he did start off the year hot and he's kind of tailed down a little bit.
Danielson too.
Danielson has looked good. I will say that there's a few guys like Marco Kasper, Rasmussen that I would like to see a little bit more production out of, especially Kasper, who I thought Kasper was probably going to be your first or second line player.
I thought he was going to be a 30-goal scorer this year.
Yeah. I really did. I think after last season, my expectations for him were really high, and I thought he was probably one of your top players going into camp. Thinking that he was going to do something really, really well. And he's really kind of taken a little bit of a backseat this year.
33 games played, only 4 points. Minus 12.
Yeah.
Hopefully 2026 he can kind of flip the switch a little bit and start having some production. I mean, he doesn't look lost, I will say. He's not getting as much ice time because of his slumps, basically.
You have to.
It's hard to put guys that are slumping up there with Larkin and DeBrincat and continue to slump, and then you're just going to continue to drag lines down. So you're going to get a bump, or you're going to sit on the bench. And the Wings right now seem like they have the roster in place where I am confident in saying that this team can make the playoffs. I know that we're probably going to get to that point in the show where we discuss playoffs.
As you say that, ASP just tied the game.
There you go.
So. I mean, the team's resilient. I mean, they definitely had a little bit of a lull there in the month of November, but I feel like, December's been a hot month. You touched on John Gibson, 2 shutouts and 3 starts. I think he's starting to, find out, because he had to make some adjustments. He was with Anaheim for many years, and you're coming to a whole new coaching staff, a whole new group of kids, a lot of young kids that you're playing, behind. And, the defense wasn't really playing that well in front of him the first few starts, and he had to find his bearings. And I think that now, after making about 10, 11 starts, I think he's really starting to become comfortable in the pipes.
Yeah.
And he's making some great game, and he's making some great starts, and he's not giving up rebounds like he was in the beginning. So he is facing, an average of about 25 shots a game, and he's standing on his head, giving up an average of a goal and a half a game his last 5 starts. So I like what I'm seeing from him. Consistency is going to be the big key for this team to make the playoffs. Now, I think they're still just a slight step ahead of where they were the last couple of years. I don't think they got to 20 wins by the middle of January last year. So to see them at 18 and 12 right now is very, very nice. But it all can come crashing down because we've seen this team go on massive skids before. But also, this is the first full season of Todd McLellan as head coach. He did take over midway through last year, and the team did start to play for him. Obviously, we tailed off at the end, but I'm confident in McLellan. I think he is the right coach for this group of kids. And yeah, I'm excited to see how it plays out. But yeah, like you, cautiously optimistic, tread carefully.
Yeah, you touched on McCullough. I think he is the voice in the room right now.
The voice.
I think with the talent the Red Wings have, there's no top tier guys, and there's a lot of speculation about if the Wings are going to make any deals. Wings have a lot of money to spend right now, and I will say that if Yzerman is on the cusp of a deal, I feel like it's going to be one of those guys that you're going to go get that's going to have a little bit of a tenure to him. The Wing, he's not going to go out there and make a trade for a guy that's contract's up at the end of the year. That's just not Steve Yzerman's brand.
Right.
That's what surprised me so much, why he was not willing to go after Hughes a little bit deeper. But I do understand that the asking price was so significantly high. There was not much that could be done.
Can we confirm if there was actually a deal in place, or I guess nothing really materialized?
I don't think that there was a full deal in place. I think that there was highly discussed trade talks.
Conversation.
And I heard the rumor is Yzerman was not willing to pull the finger and trigger on Edmondson's move. I think that was probably the deciding factor. Honestly, I think with the draft this year, I don't think the draft class is super strong. I'd be absolutely fine with just getting a first out of here. And the Wings are probably going to have a lot of picks anyway. It seems like the Wings always have a ton of picks every season. And the Wings aren't never going to pick in the top 5. It seems like no matter how bad the Wings are, they don't get good draft picks anyway. But overall, I know we're wrapping this segment up, but I will say you continue to play really, really good through the Olympic break. And I know that's going to be a huge, huge telltale sign of what happens when you come out of that Olympic break, what happens when are you going to be limping into it? I know a lot of the players are going to come back, and hopefully, obviously the Wings are probably going to lose Larkin, Raymond, Seider to their countries. I don't know if Seider's going anywhere or not, but it seems like when they did this last season or so,
the Four Nations killed their momentum. They were in the playoffs. Yes.
I feel like Larkin came back and Larkin was just exhausted.
He was exhausted and heartbroken.
And I think that really set the tone. So you got to hope that these guys come back from this tournament. That I can't wait to watch. It's going to be fantastic.
Oh, it's going to be great.
That's going to make or break right there. And I think also Florida is on a tailspin right now because of injuries. Florida is not going to sit around and not make any moves or not try to improve.
They want that third cup.
Florida is not going to be in the basement of that division. You look at the basement of that division right now and you see that Florida Panthers logo and you're like, oh, that's not staying there. It just can't. No. So, I mean, the Wings got to keep the pedal to the metal. You can't afford to drop 3 or 4 games. You're playing good hockey right now. Consistency is so key. I feel like there's going to be a move coming. I really do. And I'm going to make a bold prediction, and it's going to be someone that people are going to really, really like here. It's going to be the second fiddle to Quinn Hughes, and it's going to be Rasmus Dahlin from Buffalo.
Dahlin, yeah. I remember when we were wanting to draft him years ago, if we would have gotten that draft pick and it didn't materialize.
Yep. I think you can see Rasmus Dahlin coming here. It's going to cost you a first-round pick and probably another top.
That's fine. So F them picks. We've been saying that for years.
Yep. I'm really ready to pull the trigger and get some defensive help behind there for Seider.
2-1 Wings to Brinkett just took the lead 2-1.
Oh, great.
19th goal of the year for a guy that literally was on the biggest lull through the first 2 months of the season and now almost got 20 goals. What a tear for DeBrincat.
It's crazy how hockey can flip the switch like that.
On pace for 40 goals again. Should have another 40-goal season.
Pretty talented. Yeah, like you guys said, we got the pieces. It just now make that extra move to take you to that next step. I mean, it's all fine and dandy. It looks like we're on paper we can make the playoffs and be pretty good. But I want to be going to the Cup. I mean,
and that's what Yzerman's goal is. That should be our goal, and that's what Yzerman's goal is, and that's why he's held on to these picks for so long, because he wants them to materialize. But now that we're winning games and we're being consistent, you got to pull the trigger. If these kids aren't ready and they're not materializing down in the minors, then you can trade them off, or you can at least trade draft picks, because now you have an established roster. You have veterans here. You got to remember, Larkin is not a rookie anymore. He's been in the league for 10 years. You got a guy like Patrick Kane, 36, DeBrincat, 29. Like, these are guys this is your front line right here. Build around them. Build around those guys.
Yeah, and think of it this way. I don't know if you guys have paid attention to the Grand Rapids, but they have
Oh,
a major team going on right now.
Yeah,
they've
do.
lost
Kosa.
One game they've lost. They're setting an AHL record. I think,
What's more important? What's more important though, that Memorial Cup or the Stanley Cup? Because I do you send Kosa up here to kind of relieve Cam Talbot? I think you trade Cam Talbot at the deadline and bring in Kosa.
That's a really good question. I think
I would do it.
I think there's a lot of concerns for Kosa moving up here, but I know that he is arguably the guy of the future. I mean, Gibson's going to be here at least the next 2-3 years, but I honestly think that it would not be a bad idea, especially if Gibson is returning to form, which I think he is now. He's kind of getting more comfortable in Detroit and adjusting and getting everything set. I think that was a huge transition for him moving from Anaheim to Detroit. I feel like it was a lot.
Give him time.
I'm ready to say that I think we found our goaltender for the next couple of years, but I also am not willing to throw in the towel on Kosa. So yes, if it was me, I would try to move Talbot. I feel like Talbot is a nice backup piece, and he's going to win you some games, and he's going to have some decent performances, but it's kind of make or break for Kosa in the next year or so. I feel like there's got to be some time for him to shine, or kind of you're going to have to move on and trade him or something, because you have Trey Augustine as well that's chomping at the bit, and he's still got several years away, but he's probably going to overtake you for prospects in the goaltending pool. So it's a nice problem to have right now if you're the Wings, because you have a lot of goaltending depth, but who's going to grab that number one slot? Because the Wings really need, I feel like, a number one goaltender, unless you're going to solidify that defense and be an absolute shutdown.
I think, and also looking at the trades, I mean, I think you can make trades. Obviously, you're going to make trades with teams that are out of it, that are probably not in any position to make the playoffs. Like right now, I'd be looking at the Sabres. I'd be looking at the Maple Leafs. I'd be looking at the Devils. I'd be looking at the Rangers. I think these are teams that are probably going to miss out. The Maple Leafs took a huge step back, obviously, when they lost Mitch Marner. They kind of had to blow up that team. We saw the heartbreak over the last couple of seasons. They're not out of it quite yet, just because the Atlantic's so tough. I mean, they're only 3 points out of a playoff spot, but I don't think they're going to end up materializing, make the playoffs. The Sabres are out. But these are teams that have some very high quality pieces that you could trade for, and they might also need goaltending. So I would try to move Talbot to a team that is obviously not in a contention, but can offer you some very good solid pieces, whether it be on the D back end or maybe a second or third line center.
Yeah, you touched on the Leafs a little bit. I can't count the Leafs to not make the playoffs. The Leafs will get bounced in the first round, but they'll still find a way to make it to the playoffs. The team is just...
I don't know, man. That Atlantic, it's too competitive, but I think there's just too many hurdles for them to jump over. They got to overtake the Canadiens. They got to overtake the Bruins, the Panthers, and the Senators. That's tough.
It is. It's a tough division, and unfortunately the Wings are in it, but it's fun hockey. The competitive hockey and just every night, just watching other hockey teams play, because I do watch a lot of hockey more than anything.
Yes.
Watching Panthers games and Leafs games and Bruins games, it's just really, really fun and competitive hockey. And now that the Wings are able to somewhat compete against these teams, it kind of shows you what you need. And you were touching on defensive needs and whatnot, and there are going to be some guys that are going to be available. Is Yzerman going to be willing to part with prospects and picks, because you know how he's very, very fragile with discussing any of his decisions.
If coming at the deadline, the day of the deadline or the day before, whatever the case may be, and you're still where you are right now, if you're solidly in the playoffs, if you're first in the Atlantic or even second or third, you best be making some moves to better this team, to solidify your playoff spot, just to get you in, and then what happens from there on out, it'll all come together. Because hockey is probably the only sport next to baseball, Major League Baseball, that if you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. Just ask the last 2 years Detroit Tigers.
Thank you. Absolutely.
So make the damn move, Steve. Like, quit sitting on your damn hands. Your drafts obviously haven't materialized. Jonathan Berggren, that 2018 draft was terrible.
It's shot. They're all gone.
They're all gone. Everybody's gone from 2018. Yep. So this is your time to shine. This is your last chance. I said playoffs or bust. I didn't even say Stanley Cup or bust. It's playoffs or bust for me, for Yzerman. And to me, if he doesn't make that move, that big splash at the trade deadline, I'm going to lose all confidence and watch this team falter, because we saw what it did to them last year, not just the Four Nations Cup, but the lack of moves at the trade deadline, because this team was in the playoff race. They were solidly in the playoff chase at the deadline, and when there was no moves made, they tailed off, and they all lost confidence. So, Yzerman, this is your time to rebound. Redemption time.
It's going to be a really interesting winter, and I'm telling you, just watch what happens in January and February.
Mm-hmm. Final predictions for the Red Wings before we move on to the Tigers to close out the show? Playoffs,
absolutely got to be playoffs.
I think it's happening. Steve?
Yeah, I agree. I was just saying it with you. I was on mute, but the playoffs, I mean, that should be the ultimate goal here. And on paper, like you guys said, if they stay healthy and consistent, and like you said, the leadership seems to have a reins on the team, I think playoffs should be the goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
maybe win a series.
I think you could. I really do. I think if you get the right pairing, the right matchup, and if Gibson gets on a hot streak like he has been recently, I think you could steal a series. I think you could definitely steal a series. Take it maybe 6 or 7 games, and you might luck out. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, playoffs across the board. Let's move into the Tigers to close things out here. So obviously, not too much has been made about Tarik Skubal. That's really the only biggest topic to talk about. We've heard a lot of rumors about where he might be going.
So, even Skubal just saying, "Oh no, I love the Tigers. I'm here. This is my team." And then
same thing.
It's like what's going on?
Goodness, I think Skubal wants to remain a Tiger. I really do.
Oh, I think he does too.
But why would you want to leave Detroit? I think Boris is basically in his ears saying, "Yeah, we can get $400 or $500 million from the Dodgers or the Mets."
Money market,
and it is all about the money. And Boris is going to get his clients the most money. I mean, unfortunately, I think that'll be the end doing of Tarik Skubal with the Tigers. But it was nice to see that he did not get traded in the winter meetings. I really kept waking up every day saying, "Oh, this is probably the day that Skubal heads out of town," and it wasn't.
I was trying not to think about it.
I was. I'll be honest. I was waking up every day, looking at the phones and looking up the updates. Nope, just rumors, more rumor mills. Skubal on the way to the Mets. Oh, nope, Skubal's on the way to Los Angeles. Yeah. And every day was a a new headline story from Rosenthal or one of those other.
They didn't pull the trigger. Which makes me wonder. It's like, so
you're retaining ownership.
Yeah,
for this season.
It's right. I think, because I think the GM signed off on it. It was ownership though, so it makes me. It just makes me think maybe Illich is gonna attempt to sign him, and Skubal will. He has a say so over Boris. It doesn't matter if Boris wants.
Right.
Whatever. If Skubal wants to work on a deal with the Tigers, I think he's going to be here. And quite frankly, if I'm honest, do you really think Skubal will be just as good as he is somewhere else?
I don't think so. Not in the high pressure. I think this is a very low. No. This is a low pressure market.
And I feel like it's the team almost is the culture is built around him because he's kind of like laid back and he's happy-go-lucky on the bench. Even in the playoffs, you're like, maybe Skubal shouldn't be laughing right now. But he loosens the dugout, and sometimes that's a good thing. And I don't think it would be that same vibe if he was on another team. And I worry about him, going to another team and not having success because a lot of it's on just your confidence and on your vibes and just believing in the stuff, That's what they preach. So I don't know.
I really don't think he would have a hard time adapting. I think it would be an adjustment curve where if he does have one of those starts where he gives up two or three home runs and gives up 3 runs and strikes out 10 still and his team loses, the media is going to be all over him because more or less Detroit's kind of like, 10 strikeouts. He was marvelous in his start. Well, in LA or New York, it's going to be, he lost. And they're going to shove microphones in his face and basically it's not going to be a marvelous start, even though you gave up 2 or 3 runs and you struck out 10 or 11. I think the market is different in LA, especially LA is looking to win another one. New York is looking to rebound.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you're going to go, and honestly, if I'm Skubal, I don't want to go to New York. And I don't want to go to Boston. New York is just a very poor pitching ballpark to go to.
Yeah, he'll get lit up.
If you're Tarik Skubal, you're looking at the ballparks and you're going, yeah, I'm not going to New York, and I'm probably not going to want to go anywhere like that because it's going to inflate my numbers. And Comerica Park is a great pitch place to pitch. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, would it be surprising for me to see him in a Dodgers uniform? Probably not, because they have the money and they want to win, and they're not afraid to spend the money. And it would drive me bonkers to see Tarik Skubal in a Dodgers uniform on the West Coast, where I can't watch the majority of his starts because they're at 10 o'clock. But it is worth noting that the man wants to win a World Series. And let's be real, that's the best chance for you to win the World Series is with the Dodgers, like it or not.
I agree. Well, we lost Derek there, but I think what ultimately is going to happen is, if they didn't make a deal in the winter meetings, I feel like it's going to go down to the wire of the deadline. And I think, like Derek said, they'll probably retain him through the year and he'll go free agent. Mm-hmm. I want to be optimistic. I want to say maybe Illich is second guessing it and going to pay him, a couple $100 million more. That would be great, but I'm so torn between it because Skubal has had Tommy John, and you worry, is that elbow ever going to pop, because he does throw really hard for a lefty, and it's hard to spend that much money because it hamstrings you, like it did the Cabrera contract, like it does the Higginson contract, so the Fielder contract. Those types of contracts, they hamstring an organization for years, because they're on the books for so long, and you're not able to build the team how you want to. And you have to go out and kind of spend on a budget, and that's kind of what we've been doing. And but I feel like without spending the hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe you might be able to get pieces to help, take you to that next level. But it's tough because you're going to miss Skubal, who's easily could win you a series alone.
Yeah, he can, and that's the thing that you have to flip a coin about. Either you're going to pay Skubal a lot of money, or you're going to try to find pieces, and you're going to try to piece together some wins. And also, what does that message send to the fan base? You're letting Tarik Skubal walk because you're too cheap, because you're admitting that we're a small market organization. We can't compete with the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Red Sox of the world, so we're going to let Skubal walk, the best pitcher in baseball, for money. And I get it. $4 million is a ton of money, and I get it. But the thought is losing him, there's not really a guy that's coming up here that's going to replace him. There's not a Verlander. Even you bring Verlander back for a nice little story and a cup of coffee for 1 year, and the Tigers make the playoffs again with Verlander. That's cute. That's a nice story. I like it. Sure. Yeah. But Skubal is going to be here this coming season. I feel like if for some reason the Tigers, if the Tigers need to go all in, push the chips to the middle of the table, go all in 1 year with Skubal, see what you can do. The division is not real good. You honestly could really wipe the division probably in August. If they should have done it this past season, but you faltered. The Tribe is not good. Obviously the White Sox are rebuilding, and the Twins are just losing pieces by the day. I like the Tigers to win this division with or without Tarik Skubal. I'll be honest, I really do. But if you want to make any kind of noise in the playoffs, Tarik Skubal is your guy, because the Tigers don't have that guy to throw out there in game one to win a pivotal start.
Right. And that's what you would miss, right? And I'm starting to have flashbacks of when Verlander left, and what that's left us such a huge hole, you just don't want that, and like I said, you go all in. I guess you put your chips in the middle and you go all in because you got Skubal for the year, and you see what you got. But Derek, welcome back. We're just kind of finishing up on Skubal, and just retain him and try to make a run. And like you said, the division is not that great. But your laptop, catch your breath.
So I want to touch on something. I'll let Derek catch his breath for a second here. But Kenley Jansen, your big free agent move so far. Yeah. So you paid him $11 million for a 1 year contract, and you're going to probably see him set the record for 500 saves. That's all
cute story,
fine and dandy. Right? Yeah. So I want to run this out there to you guys. Are you comfortable with the Tigers' 7th, 8th, and 9th relievers? Obviously, on paper, obviously you retain Finnegan, you resign Finnegan, you got Vest, and now you got Jansen. That's a pretty formidable 7, 8, and 9th duo. Whoever's going to close games, I feel like AJ Hinch has got a nice problem to solve there. I think that it's probably going to be Jansen just off of his tenure.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's nice, and just in case he has one of those, he gets lit up a couple times out there, you do have Vest and you do have Finnegan to turn to. I will say I am a lot more comfortable with the 7th, 8th, and 9th than I have been in recent years with that acquisition. I know a lot of people are poo-pooing it right now, and I think a lot of Tigers fans,
you guys were kind of upset a little bit.
I've had a chance to kind of review it, and I think I'm more on board with it. And I think that if you're a Detroit Tigers fan who's been waiting for that real signal that the front office is ready to push, I think Jensen's short-term deal qualifies. Yeah, you don't add a reliever. You don't add a reliever with that kind of resume to a 1-year plus option contract unless you plan on playing meaningful baseball this year. And I think it's hard not to connect the dots to Skubal, because now there's two versions of the Tigers' near future. You got version A, which is like the sell high path, right? So you trade your Cy Young winning ace, you kind of get like a king's ransom of sorts. So if you say all the right things about like being in contention and you hope that the next wave arrives before the fan base fully loses it. Version B is like the scary one. If you keep Skubal, you spend around him and then you put real expectations on the roster right now. So I think that Jensen's signing kind of looks a lot like a version B.
I like where your head's at. Here's what I'm saying is you push the cards all the way out. You go out there and you go make a run at Bregman or Bichette. You need to add significant bat, and that will solidify we're in it. If we lose Skubal, guess what? We lose Skubal, we're going to go down fighting, and we're going to go for it all in 2026. And we'll still have Bichette, or we'll have Bergman, or another piece. The Tigers still need something else, and I like the additions that they added, but I feel like you still need that big bat. I feel like Bichette is that guy.
The only reason that the Tigers did not go all in on bats this offseason or make any drastic high-powered moves is if they plan on retaining Skubal. If they don't plan to retain Skubal after this year, then you got to go all in. You go all in, make 2026 literally. You drop your balls down on the table and you say, "This is it. This is our make or break year." If we at least we're going down swinging. If we regress big time after we lose Skubal, which I don't think they will. I really don't think they will. I think they're still going to be a division contender, a playoff contender, even without Skubal, because they're still going to have a lot of good pieces on this team. And the bullpen is solidified for a while. So, I mean, the bullpen, which was once your biggest weak point on this team, I think is now one of your strengths. And you've built around that, which I appreciate Scott Harris doing. But I think that, if you have no intentions of retaining Skubal after this year, you've got to spend heavy in 2026. You've got to make more moves than this.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that Harris is really conservative, and I think that is what's going to probably end up having Skubal walk out of town. But
without nothing.
I really think that you don't have to spend a ton of money this offseason on Skubal, and I understand that. But if you don't throw some money, you've seen what Alonso signed in Baltimore, and you've seen what Schwarber just signed as well to go back to Philly. Schwarber took less money to go to Philly instead of going to Pittsburgh. What does that tell you?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
I feel like if you're the Detroit Tigers, you need to try to
make it work.
Bergman back in here, or you need to sit down with Skubal and
take
say,
a run.
"Hey,
take a run.
Hey, Skubal, we'll give you $300 million, and guess what we're going to do? We're going to go lock up Bichette for 4 years.
Give you help. Give you some help to win that title.
Right. We'll give you kind of some ownership on the team. Like, who do you want us to go get? You like Bichette? We're going to go get him." And maybe that will be like, oh shit, this team ain't fucking, screwing around. Like we might make a run at this. And that would instill confidence in you wanting to stay with an organization that is committed to win. I completely agree. You've got to kind of put your balls on the table. This is it. I think it's a good sign that we didn't wake up to the news that he was traded. I like to think that is a positive sign because it was already locked up for Harris. Harris had the deal. It was ownership that shot it down. That's a good sign, in my opinion. So, I'm slightly optimistic, but like Danny said, I wouldn't be surprised if after the next season, he is in a different uniform. But right now,
I think he is realistically.
Let's invest then.
Yes.
Let's try to make a run at it.
If you were already not that great. If you were already going to throw, what was it, $350 million at him on the table a year ago, if that was where you were standing at, where else could you take that $350 million? You could spend that on 2 or 3 solid bats and solidify this team offensively, which is, I mean, it was good this year, but it wasn't great. Obviously, there was some bright spots, but there was a lot of lulls too, and there's a lot of holes to fill. So I would still go after 2 very, very proven veteran bats. You know your weak spot is at shortstop and at third base. So I really think that you definitely go all in on some sort of a big power batter too. I like where the Pirates are kind of going down right now. I know the Pirates, they know that they have a Cy Young pitcher. They have something special right now in Paul Skeens. And I think that they're a team that they realize, hey, we need to build around this guy, because I think the Pirates, I think the Pirates are going to be a team that could build around Skeens to retain him and not use him as trade bait. They could be a contender in, say, a year or two. I really believe that. I think the Pirates are not that far off. I just saw that they made a signing for Gregory Soto today. I think that it's a small signing, but I mean, they have a decent bullpen. You bring a veteran arm into the presence of that bullpen to mold those guys. I kind of like what the Pirates ownership has done with that team, because I think that they're going to be a contender in another couple years. So why not just try to follow suit with that? Make the moves, build around your franchise.
And that's another small market team. So think of it this way. We're talking Pirates and Tigers here. Paul Skeens is probably going to want just as much as Tarik Skubal. So I really think that Paul Skeens is probably heading out of Pittsburgh too when his time is up, because the Pirates are not going to be able to throw that kind of money at him.
But that's why they're spending money now.
The Pirates need to move quick, and just like the Tigers need to move now.
That's why I'm saying I'm using the Pirates as a comparison, because they know Paul Skeens is still under that rookie contract for another couple of years. And the Pirates, like I said, not far off. If they can make the playoffs and make a splash in these next couple of years with Skeens at the helm, and you can build around them, I think you're going to have a pretty solid team there when Skeens departs. Because I don't think they're going to retain him either, like Skubal.
Yeah, 400, 500 million for Skeens, just like Skubal. Yeah, you're going to see him probably head to the Bronx or LA or something like that as well.
Oh yeah, one of the big 3 money markets. Yep.
Yeah. And that's another big question is the money market. I heard the Tigers being tossed around by a lot of MLB insiders as a small market organization.
Yep.
For me, that just drives me nuts. I hate saying the Tigers are a small market team and they've made the playoffs. And I get when you look at the Tigers roster and you look at the money for the salary and you look at like the top earners, and it's Javi Baez, who is and that does kind of bother me a little bit.
A small resurgence.
I don't know if that bothers you guys. I get it.
It does. It does.
I get it. I mean, we paid Miguel Cabrera a lot of money, and Prince Fielder and Maglio back in the day. But now the Tigers have so much money, I feel like that's just sitting there.
They do.
And I get it. If you don't sign Skubal, I did the math. If the Tigers didn't sign Skubal, you could bring in Bichette and Bergman and still be under $400 million.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? We have a lot of money to spend. Scott Harris, and that's
a way to offload Baez.
That's Chris Ilitch, and that's Chris Ilitch. You would never see that amount of money bankroll just stashed away under the fucking mattress if old man Ilitch was here. That money would be spent faster than you could blink.
Yeah, for sure.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, no cap. So I mean, that's why you see these Mets owners and I mean, that's what it is. And even the Orioles were like, oh, screw it. Maybe we'll make another run. They just dropped a huge contract. It's like.
Yeah, Alonso going to the Orioles. Who would have thought that? I did not see that in my bingo card at all. I really did not think he was going to be. I definitely knew he was going to be leaving New York, but Baltimore?
Yes.
Like, you would think he would ended up in maybe like Cincinnati or San Diego.
Not to your rival.
Or that is really that's really strange to me. I mean, kudos to him. He's going to have probably a big year in Baltimore, and then now you get to see him a little bit more playing the Orioles a couple times, where the Tigers don't really see the Mets much. So,
real quick score break here, real quick for the Red Wings. So they're on a power play with 2.5 minutes to go in the third period, tied 2-2.
So I better go turn it on.
Let's see what happens. I just threw it on the phone right now. I'm watching, so I'm just trying to see. They look like they're pouncing pretty hard right now in the Islanders zone.
Yeah,
I mean, great show. We needed this check-in. Obviously, well, we're definitely going to get back into it here. Once now that the dead of winter has set in, I'm sure we're going to have another update show as we get closer to playoffs. And we're either going to have good news or bad news to report for the Detroit Lions, and they just scored. Power play goal. Oh, my goodness gracious. It's DeBrincat, second goal of the game, number 20.
I love it.
20th goal of the season, Alex DeBrincat, second of the game, with 2:14 to go in the third period.
Oh, yeah.
Nice comeback. Right. Well, it's not over yet. They're going to pull their goalie, I'm sure, here. But, yeah, nice to see the power play gelling again for the Wings. Yeah. On that note.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to, wish everyone a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah.
Yeah.
And Happy New Year, because we'll probably be back on in 2026, bigger, better, maybe pulling some guests, maybe have more like giveaways. So we'll definitely try to be more creative.
I want to do that.
Time's tight with me, but I can make time, and we can make it work because this is something fun for me, and my family supports that. So I'm happy to take on a new year and make this show even better, and I'm looking forward to it with you guys.
Yeah, kudos.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely, from myself, from our family, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. And, yeah, we will definitely be back in 2026. I'm going to be a lot more in tune with the Detroit sports world. Now that I can actually watch, I'm not just checking in on my phone now. I'm going to be a lot more active and definitely look out for more posting on the Facebook page and beyond. So we definitely want to try to get some high-profile guests on the show like we did under the old DSD Sports Chat days. And hoping to grow the podcast and especially get it maybe out to more platforms aside from just Facebook, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. So sky's the limit.
Yeah. Let's roll into 2026 high.
All right, guys. Well, with that, I think we're going to call this one a podcast. About an hour and 20 minutes in. Go Wings. Hopefully they can hang on here in the last minute and a half. And everybody have a great night and be safe.
Yeah, take care, guys.
See y'all.